So far as right to food is concerned, right to food concern in Nepal. Nepal is agriculture is main sources of the Nepalese citizen. Lack of industrialization. 66% of the people based on the farming, but out of which only 10% people hold the 50% land of the Nepal, where Nepalese citizen and Nepalese people, their economics based on the farming. However, 50% land that hold by the 10% citizen. Because of that, even the growth of farming is not adequate, due to which the people of especially hill region and western part of the country, that is known the Himalaya Karnali region, especially then Karnali zone and Karnali region, people face the starvation and due to the poverty, and even many people has committed the suicide due to the poverty and starvation. We saw the newspaper in daily basis. Some extent, the people they come first. We have seen lots of cases where the mother committed their children. They killed children and subsequently herself they committed the suicide. There are many more cases that only because of poverty, starvation.
Are these in urban areas, the suicides, or urban
area, especially Karnali zone, where that is the hill region, where the people they do not. There is no any industries. There is no more industry, and even there is not possible to have a farm because being the hill region. So that especially vulnerable group of the society is the hill region and western part of the country, that is Karnali zone. And we have a legal and constitutional framework so as to protect. Nepal is the party to the big six treaties, and it is the duty of the state to implement and to protect the citizen from the scarcity from the food. However, despite of the legal and constitutional framework, it has not been duly implemented. That we have seen, we have discussing since 5 days, where there are many more laws, there are the policy, but lack of implementation. Even in this case, regarding the right, in the case of right to food, the people are facing the problem. In clearly under interim constitution of Nepal, clearly mentioned that food sovereignty is a fundamental right. But the question is, some extent, as determined fundamental right. Sometimes we confuse whether there is a fundamental right or legal right. Many of the fundamental rights that mentioned in the constitution say that people shall have right to food sovereignty as determined by law. The state failed to enact the law in that case, whether that considered as a legal right or fundamental right. This is the question. Even in some of the cases, Supreme Court has there are 2-3 cases where the Supreme Court of Nepal directed to the government of Nepal to implement, looking into the international treaties and convention. It is the duty of the government of Nepal to implement and to ensure the food to the that suffer. That is the case Madhav Kumar Basnet versus Prime Minister and government of Nepal, where in the 1996, where the Supreme Court held, it is the duty, the Supreme Court declared that it is the duty of the state to protect the life, property, life of the people by the state. And at the same time, another case, Supreme Court held Prakash Mani Sharma versus the government of Nepal. In that case, where our Nepal Food Corporation supplied the food in that hill region, the food which was found the rotten food. Because of that, diarrhea, the people, many people were died due to the diarrhea. So that the public interest litigation was filed, and immediately the Supreme Court issued the interim order as well as final order, stating that it is the duty of the state to ensure the medicine, food, so as to serve the people and so as to protect their life and liberty. These are the case where even the Supreme Court of Nepal, that many cases that referred by the court cases from the Supreme Court of India, and good decision has been made, passed out. However, the part of implementation is still yet to have. It has not been duly implemented.
I have two questions. One is, do you have a translated copy of this order in English? Because I'm unable to get it. The second question is, what about groups like, say, Kamaiyas, who are discriminated? Who are the marginalized groups in Nepal who you feel are most vulnerable?
Vulnerable group is, as I mentioned, that people from far and mid-western region, they are vulnerable because even there is not that much of farming that grow up in that area. Another is the Kamaiyas. It was the tradition and custom. It was running since long time, but Supreme Court of Nepal also declared the tradition of the Kamaiya is unreasonable and which is against the life and liberty of the individual. So that on the basis of that, Supreme Court declared that custom and tradition is unconstitutional. However, in practice, but the South government has not been made such policy so as to protect those Kamaiyas. Still, they are facing where to work, how to work. Though they were working to someone's house and landlord's house, but after this decision, still a lack of policy. They are facing the problem. They are also vulnerable to the society. They are also belong to the far western region. And so far as the translation is concerned, Nepali law, basically we have all the Nepali language we used to even in Supreme Court, and we publish the law reporter in Nepali language. I'll try to find out whether some institution or organization may have translated. Then I can help.
Just this one judgment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, maybe Bhutan or Afghanistan.
Thank you. As far as everybody knows, and the lecturer himself raised very good point about Afghanistan. I know he is well aware about the situation. In regard to the question, Afghanistan has emerged from 3 decades of war, and it is very new in everything, particularly in terms of food security. I can say that there are some facts about Afghanistan. It is mostly mountainous and with harsh climate. In some parts of Afghanistan, winter is long for almost 6 months, particularly central highlands and northern part of Afghanistan like Badakhshan. It is said in many accredited reports by United Nations and central government that 80% of Afghan population's livelihood is based on agriculture and livestock. Of course, in most of this population are resided or inhabited in the rural areas. The food commodities, particularly wheat, flour, this kind of other food commodities are always imported from neighboring countries, including Pakistan, India, Iran, and Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan. There is, let's say, shortcomings in terms of arable land, particularly in central highlands. And due to a very long-standing drought, there is an acute water shortages as well. And food variety is very has a very bad condition, particularly in central highlands of Afghanistan, as the farmers can only cultivate wheat, barley, and beans, no other things.
Wheat, barley, and
bean. Yeah, that is why it is not culturally. I don't know why it is like that. There are seasonal fruits, but no vegetables. hardly they have onions, this green onion, and potato, and nothing else. If you go to see the tablecloth of the people who lives in the central island, particularly since I'm coming from Bamiyan, you cannot find vegetable on their tablecloth. So, yeah, these are the situation in the country, but in terms of legal issue, as far as I know, the government, particularly Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock, has been striving with UNFAO and UNWFP in this regard a lot. There are lots of investment, but there is not yet a policy or let's say law in this regard to protect those vulnerable people in far-flung areas. Of course, government has established stores, we say gudams, in different provinces, in those vulnerable provinces where their accessibility is an issue in the winter. They are locked by heavy snowfalls, avalanches, and so forth within even 6 months. So that is why flour and wheat are stored on those stores in the provincial centers in order to help those needy families during the winter, because the winter is so long, so they cannot the earning, the yield throughout the year is not sufficient. It is not adequate for the families to finish, let's say, the whole winter. So there are always many families that they are the recipient of the food commodities through the government. Yeah, that's the situation from my eyes. But my friend has also something to say. He will not be able to speak to you in English, but he will say something in Dari. I will try to translate.
Unfortunately, I couldn't speak English, but my colleague will translate. دولت افغانستان در راستای حفظ صحه و خصوص مسئولیت غذایی هیچ گونه توجهی نداشتند و صرف تمام فعالیت‌های دولت با ایجاد چند سمینار از طرف وزارت اقتصاد و وزارت زراعت خلاصه شد.
According to him, the government has no attention in this regard. They only suffice to hold seminars and workshops about food security.
هیچ گونه قانونی در این راستا وجود نداره و پارلمان افغانستان هم یعنی حتی یک پلان را به خاطر مسئولیت غذایی در کشور هیچ روی دست نگرفته و
Yeah, there is no law. Since my friend is a lawyer, there is no law about food security, and the parliament has nothing as a draft even in their